Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I forgive everyone out there who might be looking and saying Steel City Underground, Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. We're talking about Super Bowl, whatever this acronym, abbreviation, Roman numerals, or whatever. We just get on with numbers, or we could just do like WrestleMania now and give it like a star or something, or Goes Hollywood, or Goes to the Desert, or some other type of fancy name. Man, I'll tell you what, I used to be able to read these things up through Super Bowl like 43, and then I stopped caring after that, obviously, for whatever intents and purposes. Super Bowl 57. Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, if you've been living under a rock, 38-35 victory by the Kansas City Chiefs. So I'll have some stuff that's relating not to just the Eagles and Chiefs, but also back to the Steelers, even though this is the Steel City Underground podcast. This was the conclusion of the 2022 -23 NFL season. It goes longer and longer now, which isn't a bad thing. We love football. I mean, but and forgive me if I'm long-winded today. Of course, I'm by myself as the other gents usually on the show, Zach, Flash, Celadonia, and Brian E. Roach. I guess too much to eat, too much to drink, combination of both. I don't know. Guys, you gotta hydrate. You gotta pace yourselves and get through this. And that's what I'm gonna do, and just some programming notes. Hopefully another show later this week. And then I'm headed out on vacation for a little bit, so maybe only one in the following week. And then we're gonna be heading into the home stretch of free agency. We're gonna start getting into the meat and potatoes of some actual real NFL news. We can get away from some speculation until all that's over. Then we start speculating on the draft, of course. So this Super Bowl game, of course, not without its own controversy and some topics to talk about. So let's dive right into today's daily grind, almost like a daily Steelers grind. But Jalen Hurts, man, just one hell of a season from this young man. And we got a lot of people. You got, of course, Andrew Filipponi running his mouth as he would, as you wouldn't expect him not to, and saying he hopes for a second-year jump with Kenny Pickett, much like with Jalen Hurts. Although the problem is Jalen Hurts, is much like Patrick Mahomes, sat for the better part, his rookie season. So he was a second-year starter where Kenny was thrown in initially here as a starter during his rookie season. I think the Steelers really did want to try and sit Kenny Pickett, and they tried to, and it didn't work out for a few weeks, obviously. So, but we dig into Jalen Hurts and what a year he had. The Philadelphia Eagles, of course, what were they during the regular season? 14-3. NFC East, we always used to call the NFC least. Hurts putting up some big numbers, man. 66.5% of his passes complete. 3,701 yards, 22 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He got sacked only 38 times. He had a 101.5 QB rating for the year. He was also second in rushing on the entire team. I don't expect Pickett to do these type of things, but hey, you know what? 22 touchdowns in 17 games isn't a lot. Now, Hurts ran for 13 touchdowns and on his feet, and you saw Kenny was right there, like as far as running the football. I thought Hurts, actually I was going to look up Kenny's running numbers too. Kenny Pickett, that is, had 3 rushing touchdowns this season. I was thinking 3 or 4, somewhere in that ballpark. If you think about it, he only had 7 touchdown passes. Part-time starter, 12 starts over the year. So it's certainly numbers that could be improved upon. But Jalen Hurts, man, I really thought could have or should have maybe been the MVP. I get tired of seeing the same guys win it all the time. Patrick Mahomes, of course, there's plenty of good things to say about him as well. But the way the Eagles just kind of turn this around, they've got a lot of free agents that are going to be off their books right now. It'll be interesting to see how they continue to roster build going forward. They had a big A.J. Brown trade, of course. Chauncey Gardner, I always mess up his name, the nickel corner. They had some guys like that, but of course, some others that we'll talk about later, like Javon Hargrave, that they've had for a few years on the roster. And a lot of these things it was just like a perfect storm for them. It really was, and it all clicked. We'll see if they're able to can be consistent and be able to replicate the success they just had. I know a lot of teams the NFL is a copycat league, so a lot of teams are going to be looking to do many of the same things going forward. So I really liked Jalen Hurts. I thought maybe could he have been a Super Bowl MVP as well with his 3 touchdowns combined? I mean, there's definitely some smoke to that fire. Three combined rushing touchdowns and the other one throwing. He threw for 304 yards. He had a 103.4 rating. And it just, it sounds unprecedented. No, you got to give it to the winner. And it hasn't always happened. I think you got to go all the way back to something like Super Bowl V or somewhere. But for just such a dominant performance by an individual player, I know it seems unheard of, but consolation prize. I mean, that young man was really beat up today. So I feel for him. And I didn't have a dog or a horse or whatever in this race, in the fight, one way or the other. So it didn't bother me too much one way or the other than the outcome, which I'll get to a little bit later. But what we should maybe discuss next is that young man, Patrick Mahomes, and what he's been able to bring to the table here in Kansas City. 4 straight AFC championship games, and now 2 Super Bowls out of those 4 years. And there's another MVP, league MVP, Super Bowl MVP, just putting up a whole lot of numbers. He ran, and this was like one of the dumbest things that I saw or heard on this broadcast. And trust me, there was a lot of dumb things that were said. Greg Olsen and company weren't necessarily the sharpest knife in the drawer, so to speak, on some of their commentary and play-by-play. It felt like I was watching a college game at times instead of the Super Bowl for just how dry the commentary was during this game. But Mahomes, his ankle doesn't look too bad, and I'm just kind of like, were you watching the same thing I did? He looked like he was like almost like Ben Roethlisberger running out there, and I mean like 39-year-old Ben Roethlisberger. He got away. Matt Ryan got away at one point against the Steelers earlier in the year. We saw some others, just some players, some quarterbacks boogieing that usually don't boogie, right? And you could just tell that he was running diagonally. He was trying to stretch as much out of that play as he could, but also was trying to avoid contact, and you could tell he wasn't at top speed. I don't think he was at 50%, maybe. At some point, he got to sit like forever. The Chiefs didn't have the ball. They were down that whole first half. It was really interesting. It really adds to his, his legend that's starting to grow in Kansas City. And that legend is also growing in part because a lot of people want to say now, are the Chiefs a dynasty? And with Mahomes, it's hard to not be a dynasty, but with Mahomes' contract, I got to wonder how much longer they hang on in this category and are able to continue just rolling over teams and everything like that. I know that the Patriots were able to do it at one point, and Andy Reid is certainly a deserving coach. That staff, we're going to see if they're going to be able to keep all of those guys still together. And one of them that we're going to talk about, well, first, let me talk about the Chiefs and their dynasty. Someone's got to step up. Will the Steelers be in that position, ever step up? That's a whole other conversation for another day. Cincinnati Bengals are currently in that conversation. Young quarterback on a cheap contract, Josh Allen. They just paid Josh Allen. So the Buffalo Bills might now be on. They're still kind of, you can massage a little bit of that post giving the quarterback some money and how you end up spreading that out on a salary cap. But I'm not going to say one way or another that who's there to unseat the Chiefs. You can't look over at the New England Patriots anymore as being like that dynasty. Within a 4-year period, this might be the end of the dynasty is what I'm saying. It might be the tail end. See how much more they can keep it going. But as defending Super Bowl champs right now, you got to knock them off the mountain. They're the king of the mountain. So I can't talk too much smack about them, but to do it year in and year out, it proves to be very difficult. They made they had some shrewd moves. Obviously, they were able to sign like Juju Smith-Schuster in the offseason. Wasn't a whole lot of money, more tied into incentives. The trade for Kadarius Toney, Clyde Edwards-Helaire didn't really work out as a running back, but they still had Jerick McKinnon. That was a guy that you had to kind of pace because he would always get hurt. He had knee injuries. It was always a phenomenal, talented RB1. Okay. Isaac Pacheco, they found this guy like, 7th round pick or wherever he found him. Nobody wanted him. He's kind of a Mr. Irrelevant all to himself. So um, they keep making these moves and they're getting lucky in some of these circumstances, but eventually I got to feel that they're not going to be able to field 22 all-star players. And that's the same thing I used to say about the Steelers. Why can't the Steelers win? They have the killer bees. When they did have them and had them healthy, that's another thing that's gone very well for the Chiefs has been they've had a lot of health, particularly Travis Kelce, man. I mean, Travis Kelce, and he's a beast. He's a monster. He's making a case for being the greatest tight end of all time, even over Rob Gronkowski. So Kelce, been in the league since 2013. He's been a Pro Bowler all but those first 2 years. He barely played as a rookie. Really didn't start. He got 11 starts in 2014, and from 15 on, you're looking at a guy that's going to be entering 11 years in the NFL. He puts up monster numbers, 1,300 yards, 12 touchdowns this past year. He's had over 1,000 yards in every season since 2016. He's been there this entire time. Patrick Mahomes has been in Kansas City. So this is that's one piece of it. It's one component of it. We saw Heath Miller only played about 10 years. Kelsey's now 33 years old. And he continues to get it done. Good for him. He's got the hardware now to show for it. If he ends up leaving, I mean, a lot of people were like, hey, we saw it with Tyreek Hill, but I think some of the guys they filled in there, they also have McCole Hardman. They were already thinking ahead with the Tyreek Hill thing. So it can't go completely off the rails there when it comes to, they continue to find ways to fill in gaps in their roster. So can they continue to do that? We shall see. One of the other items that I'd already mentioned was it's Eric Bieniemy, and his name is always a hot topic in NFL discussions and circles. They say he should be a head coach. Why isn't he already a head coach? Isn't there this Rooney Rule and it allows him to get these interviews and things like that? And is he being hosed? Is he being blackballed, for lack of better terms? I don't believe any of that. Supposedly he has a job offer with the Washington Commanders. Okay, the Washington Commanders that just had Taylor Heineke, that just have Carson Wentz. Now they have Sam Howell. There's some decent receivers. There's some weapons there on that team, but this is a team that's run by Dan Snyder. This is a team that's coached by Ron Rivera. Is Bieniemy really in Andy Reid's shadow? This guy just added hardware to his trophy case. I don't know why he'd want to take an offensive coordinator job somewhere else, where now he could do really bad and then not have those sniffs at being a head coach. There could be something internal too. Maybe they've already had discussions. Andy Reid, 65 years old? I don't know. Pete Carroll's up there. He's north of 70. So there's coaches that certainly coach into much, much past what you would consider a normal person's career in terms of retirement years. So I don't know. They may have had some type of internal discussions. I was already surmising that with Mike Tomlin when they had Brian Flores on staff with the Steelers. And that could always be a return trip too. They could always come back and maybe talk to Brian Flores in a couple of years if they were impressed with how he handled his business in Pittsburgh. So I don't think Eric Bieniemy is anybody that's I think he's comfortable. I'm not going to say comfortable where he is, but maybe not complacent with where he is. But at the same time, why rush? I mean, it's not like your stock is going down any. And there's always questions of, Andy Reid. Andy Reid, very much an offensive-minded coach. How much of that is involved? Andy Reid gave all the credit in the world. He was name-dropping Eric Bieniemy. We heard Terry Bradshaw when they were handing over and presenting the trophies right in front of the owner. What is it? It's a Clark Kent. I always mess up his name. I think Clark Kent. But the formerly of the Lamar Hunt kind of dynasty and family, one of the legendary families in the NFL as well as Major League Soccer too. So the Hunt family there. But he asks right in front of him, Terry does. He asks Andy Reid directly. He goes, "Are you going to be back?" And putting the guy on the spot. Let him enjoy the moment, man. It's like you got him in the middle of the cherry on top of his ice cream sundae. So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to be asking, and you never know. There might be a succession plan in place, but for folks that are sitting around saying, "Oh, you want Eric Bieniemy as OC in Pittsburgh?" Why? It's the same situation. Why would he go somewhere with an inexperienced quarterback at the helm, and maybe other issues and problems that need to be fixed when you're on a built-in championship winning, perhaps, dynasty? So, and speaking with some of that as well. People are already surmising Juju, come back. Javon Hargrave, come back. Good for both of those guys. Juju, hey, made the right choice. There was already that smoke around the fire as to whether or not Juju would have been heading to Kansas City the year before, and he took what a lot of people considered a hometown discount to stay in Pittsburgh for one more year. Even came back and played and come off of injured reserve to play in the playoff game last year against the Kansas City Chiefs, his future team. And he didn't do a whole lot through the first half. And then all of a sudden, boom, right off the page, man. And Juju was second in this game in receiving, just on the Chiefs side, I should say, to Travis Kelce. I say that because Devontae Smith had 100 yards and A.J. Brown had 96, some big plays from the Eagles. And some of that kind of fell off the rails, too, because of special teams, Kadarius Toney. I mean, that's just how do you give a team like Kansas City that kind of guy with talent? I guess the Giants felt he was, used goods or whatever, damaged. But Juju, 7 catches, 53 yards. Kelce, of course, 6 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown in that game. I got to go back to Bieniemy for just one moment before I talk about my dude Hargrave, because, I really love Hargrave. Oh, well, might as well say he had 1 tackle for loss. There wasn't a whole lot to win on. They didn't get to Mahomes, who had a bum ankle coming in. They didn't get to him once in this game, where the Chiefs actually had 2 sacks on the stat sheet, but some of that too is just Hurts moving around and whatnot when you have mobile quarterbacks in that nature. But just the play calling and how smooth. I know, folks, it's like you want to see Pickett do well. Somebody was already thinking about that. The year 2 jump. How's he going to do that with Matt Canada? I don't know. And I don't know where somewhere along the line the Chiefs said, okay, we're going to screw with them doing this, sending somebody in motion pre-snap, and then we're just going to cut them right back in the other direction. And you know what? We're going to hit the old, whatever it is, the X or the square or the triangle that, the X or the Y on the Xbox. I don't remember which one it was on PlayStation, on Madden. And you flip the play. And that's essentially all they did. They ran it like 3 different times, and they were all like for touchdowns. They just caught the person not picking up their guy in man defense and switching off and whatnot. Just absolutely brilliant. If you didn't watch the game or whatever, go back and look at some highlights. I mean, Sky Moore, Travis Kelce, and who was our other person that caught TD? Watch. It's going to be Kadarius Toney, because I'm just not thinking about Kadarius Toney at the time. Yeah, it was Kadarius Toney. How about that? But yeah, it set him in motion. They didn't set him all the way full in motion and snap the ball and just start running them right back the other direction. The defender fell asleep thinking the guy was going to keep coming across the formation, and never did. He come about halfway and cut back, and these guys were so wide open that I could have thrown them the football. That's how ridiculous it was in this particular game. So this Super Bowl, it was interesting for all intents and purposes. Very high scoring, 75 points combined between the two teams, 38-35. Again, it wasn't without controversy, as I'm going to allude to here. By the way, both free agents, Juju and Javon Hargrave. So we'll see. Would I take them back? Probably both of them, but just to speak on Juju in particular, don't really need Juju. You've got, he's more of a possession guy. He hasn't been the big play dude since back with Antonio Brown. Moves the chains, sure-handed, great blocker. Definitely he could fit in and fill like a Miles Boykin type role, but maybe not for a Miles Boykin type money. And when you've already got George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, Calvin Austin was drafted last year, coming back. Steven Sims will be back. Anthony Miller just re-signed. I thought Miller was great in camp. You got 5 wide receivers in the stable right now. Which one of those guys? You could always try and cut Sims. Are you going to have Juju returning kicks and punts? I don't necessarily know. But anyways, this game wasn't without controversy. That 3-point spread there at the end, which I don't know. I would have to look at some lines. I was hoping I was going to have Flash on with me so he could discuss what were some of the bets that he ended up taking in this game. And I feel like somehow the Vegas and the sports books and everything that's available now to everyone to bet at home, it just came down to the end of this play. People are going to say, you can't call that in a Super Bowl. Well, a foul is a foul is a foul. And they're absolutely right. But all I could see is, and I saw this myself, and it was around social media, was the tackles. Just no false starts. There were like no holding penalties. There were very few. Anything that would have been like a pass interference call or anything in this game, it was either that the game was played very cleanly. In some instances, that can be true, right? You got the 2 best teams, arguably, are playing for the trophy. So clean a lot more clean football, because if you're sloppy, you're shooting yourself in your foot and you're not going to make it into the Super Bowl. But on the other hand, here with Carl Sheffers and his crew, it just seemed like so out of place. I know, I'm trying to think who it was, the defender for the Eagles. He said, yes, I grabbed at Juju. It was stared down the entire time, all practically by Mahomes. I kind of felt that the ball was going to be going there, and that ended the game. And of course, you had the run right after, where it's just a slide. They're not going to let was it Pacheco that ended up running that one, or McKinnon? They're not going to. He didn't score, stayed in bounds, run the clock, run it out, so they could just kick a field goal and win. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm going to come back to that because I was talking about officiating. But if you think that call really kind of screwed the Eagles had enough, how many opportunities? We say this all the time when we're talking about the Steelers, and we complain about various kind of instances or scenarios that happen during the game. You get a drink here real quick. I apologize. Hey, this is what happens when I'm by myself. I need some coffee. My apologies as always for doing that. I hate smacking lips and gritting teeth and everything like that. But the Chiefs, 3 straight touchdown drives and the field goal drive to end it after the Eagles defense did their job and kept them largely off the field toward the end. And then you had the hit in the third quarter. You had the one, well, you had a couple of catches that I thought were maybe not catches or the other way around. And Nick Bolton, who already had the fumble recovery earlier in the game, lays a hit on, I don't know if it was Sanders or Boston Scott. I'm trying to remember which one it was. And I was thinking to myself, the guy caught the ball, tucks it. Okay, he doesn't make like an extra step or anything like that. And people are trying to say bang, bang. That's Bolton's job. And I felt right there that the Chiefs were robbed of what would have been a walk-in touchdown off of a fumble there. And earlier, too, you have Devontae Smith, once again, embroiled in, was this a catch? Was it not a catch? Up against the helmet and whatnot. Dallas Goedert, he bobbles the ball. He made 2 steps and then like maybe a third step, and that step was out of bounds. But did he have it? Was he? And it's like, well, the ball can move, but does he have control of it? Oh, wait a minute. That doesn't make any sense. Like, if I'm spinning a ball like a Harlem Globetrotter and all of a sudden it starts to come off my finger and then I kind of grab it, is the ball still spinning? Like, do I have complete control of it at all times? It just didn't make any sense to me. I thought that the Chiefs might have been robbed right there. They would have had every reason to whine, bellyache, complain, and cry if they had lost that game, because that didn't end up being a touchdown. So I could flip and go to the other side of this and say, at the very end of this, does that call the illegal contact or whatever you want, whatever the official flag was at the end for that, does that really matter in the grand scheme of things, as opposed to some of the other breaks or bad breaks that happened already up until that point? I can't argue that the Chiefs were the wrong team to win. It just looked really bad and really out of place, and that's where you get the perception. It's what you remember last. And that's what you pretty much remember last. You're not going to remember some big touchdown play. You're going to remember that there was a yellow hanky out there, or orange hanky out there on the field, the flag that was thrown, and gave instead of the Chiefs just kicking a field goal and the Eagles having a chance to come back, which most people would have liked to have seen. That would have been very entertaining, at least with them to have some time left on the clock and an opportunity to score. But alas, that didn't happen. We were promised by Roger Goodell that the officiating was as good as it has ever been, just leading up to this big game. And here you go. It's all gone again. Before I jump into any of the other pomp and circumstances as well, I wanted to let all of you folks out there know that the Steel City Underground podcast is brought to you by MANSCAPED, precision-made tools for your family jewels. And as you know, the Beard Hedger Pro Kit is a new product. It's just been released, but it's not the only thing that comes with this. When you go to manscaped.com and put in the promo code Steel City 20 for 20% off and free shipping now. And I know we're right up against Valentine's Day. Hopefully some of you have already gotten this, but if you're looking, this one, it's the beard. See, I just did that thing as well where I grip my teeth. Sorry about that. This one's actually not the beard trimmer, but it's what they're showing me for the holiday package. But You could get stuff like beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember all your hair is different. Beard hair, it's more coarse. It's easier to damage than the hair on your head. I wouldn't know because I don't have much hair on my head, but I believe you got to take care of this as well. And, I cut this a little short for those of you who didn't see the last show or two. I nicked myself a little bit too close with the beard hedger, and it does a really great job. It's a titanium coated T blade. It is smooth on your face, so I don't want to say I nicked. What I did was I cut it too short, and then it just looked bad, so I had to even everything out. And that was real easy to do, easy to groom with all this stuff. The beard shampoo and conditioner also comes with this particular kit. So does beard oil, which is an essential piece for your main facial accessory. So if you have the Duck Dynasty thing going on, you can cap this all off with the beard balm. It's a pomade that shapes, styles, moisturizes, and tames for a sculpted look to attract any fellows or dames. I mean, if you got a good beard going, I know I'm a straight dude, right? But I'll be like, hey, that's a nice beard. You know what I mean? I could admire that. I could appreciate that. I'm comfortable in my own skin. So if you want, but you got to admire yourself sometimes too. So that's just something you look in the mirror and you're like, hey, that's a good looking dude. You could get that beard trimmer set from manscaped.com. Once again, promo code Steel City 20. It's in the show notes. That gets you 20% off and the free shipping that's available worldwide, actually. So just moving along, halftime show. Everybody likes to complain about this too. I'm just going to start saying bitch all the time. They bitch about it. I'm starting to get a little more loose. I like to try and be PG. I don't know how many of you got this playing on speakers in front of small ears or in NSFW type situations, but the halftime show, I've seen Rihanna in concert. Actually, I saw her with Eminem years ago, and that was a really solid show. Am I the biggest Rihanna fan? I'm not really the target demographic for that. I definitely listen to her over country music anytime, but Chris Stapleton had a hell of a national anthem. I thought all of the pregame festivities were top notch by the NFL. This was a hell of an NFL halftime show as far as a production. Just everything always just looks weird to me. Maybe I'm just getting old and want to yell for people to get off my lawn, because all I kept thinking about was this. It's just the you got like the little Oompa Loompas or whatever running around. And this was a meme that I found off the internet, and I'm like, I knew it reminded me of something. They're all in these like suits and stuff like that, and I pull up like the other one just to go back to yeah, you look at Rihanna and her minions that are there. I don't know. Like, I was trying to figure out what the heck was going on at this point. I didn't know really what it represented. Maybe I was supposed to, maybe I wasn't supposed to, but somebody would come out there and say, oh, you should have gotten this. And it's like, well, you know what? If I'm that casual of a fan and I didn't pick up on that, who else isn't picking up on this? Otherwise, it's a big production. It's a to-do. It's a spectacle. It's one of the most watched, if not most watched, sporting event all year long. I don't have a horse in this race. I'm not going to fight this battle. I thought it was just, it's not the greatest ever. It's not the worst ever. It was just mid. And that's where I will leave that. But I just thought it was kind of funny. I had to shove it in there. Like, I'm going to get, Flash might wear one of these things and get him booing. Well, Trubisky might not be around next year. Get him in the stands wearing one of these things with the big, kind of ski goggle, Bret Hart looking sunglasses there, the hip man. I was thinking of too. I really couldn't figure this out. That one lady looks really angry, like she's not enjoying being a dancer. What do dancers do in their spare time other than this? They got to have another profession, right? I don't know. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to choreograph all of that. Trust me. There was like enough people to fill like 4 football rosters there. I just didn't. I don't know. And I'm out of touch. So, anyways, I don't know about out of touch with one other thing though. The last item, we talk about commercials, TV space, and ads with the Super Bowl. And Budweiser, where the hell were you? You used to be the king of doing these things. Does it cost too much money? Have you lost too much money because nobody drink? I should be careful what I say. I got enough of these cans and bottles sitting right above my head. But it's almost like water. It's not like something that I drink or partake of too often. So uh, it just I like their ad though. They had a really good one with a couple, and the lady was sitting on laying on the couch, and she's been on hold for almost an hour with the phone, and they start dancing, and they're drinking a beer, and they're dancing to like the music that we all hear where you're going through these automated call systems and whatnot. And I thought that was actually a pretty clever one. Sticking with the beer commercials, Miller Lite or Coors Light saying that they hadn't had a commercial in the longest time, and the guys fighting with each other, and then they're like, it's a Miller Lite commercial, no, it's a Coors commercial. And if you don't know, they're both brewed by the same company. They merged to take on Anheuser-Busch many years ago, which has gotten even bigger since then. And in the grand finale of that, they throw Blue Moon up on the counter and say, no, it's a Blue Moon commercial, which they also make. And Blue Moon, hey, that's not too bad stuff. If push comes to shove, though, I'm grabbing a Yingling above all of those. Sam Adams, fine with that. Yingling, definitely something you could get at Acrisure Stadium. Otherwise, in the commercial field, I liked the lady, the women pushing football forward one. I know sometimes, like when you're trying to send a message and you're trying to promote something or being progressive with something, how it could rub people the wrong way, this way or the other thing. I mean, hey, look, this whole M&M's thing, I didn't even realize they were gone. And then all of a sudden they're back, and I'm like, they were gone? Like, what happened? And then it's like, okay, this was all like a PR stunt to begin with. That I don't know. It just that didn't. If I had known they were gone, or if I cared any, then I guess it would have affected me in some way. Instead, it just came like this Maya's chocolate covered clams or whatever. I'm like, no, that's just gross. That's just weird. I'm not with that. The Breaking Bad commercial with the popcorners or whatever that product was. Yeah, I can remember that it was all the Breaking Bad thing, and Tuco at the end. That was really great. But the flag football one, that was a very interesting one. We got a couple of these actually up on steelcityunderground.com, actually, if you want to take a look at some of the various commercials that are they're on our website. You can find it real quickly. And as you go down, there was this one actually had Cameron Hayward in it. You can kind of see it on my screen right here. So Jeep, the Electric, Bradley Cooper and his mom, T-Mobile. Oh, Diana Flores. Of course, we can't play it over straight through there, but it's linked through it. But Diana Flores, that was a really interesting commercial. I didn't realize everything with the women's flag football. They had her on NFL Network actually today, Monday, if you're listening later, and you can go back maybe and watch throwing the football and stuff. Wow, what an athlete. But the part that, aside from having all the NFL players in and Sauce Gardner and everybody trying to tackle her and Cam Hayward and those guys getting run over, was going home and she's speaking Spanish, Spanglish, whatever. I've been playing a lot of Forza Horizon 5, so stick with me there. That's based in Mexico with a lot of Spanglish. But talking to her mom, and she's talking about her day, and you won't believe what happens. And her mom tries to take her flag off her. And I'm like, you know what? As a father, I would probably do that to my daughter too. So I thought it was very well done. The Tubi commercials and the Temu, the boutique one, it's like, oh, you could shop like this, or Tubi with these giant bunny rabbit, like they're just creepy. Like they may as well just used Pennywise from It and put a balloon and had somebody try and go in a white van or something. Like, what on, like, just some of these commercials, just they do not resonate. There was another one for a game, which is very clever. It's like limited time only. Only around for so long. Hurry up and scan the QR code, with like a catchy little tune with it. But I have no idea what I'm scanning this for and what I'm putting on my phone. That might have helped. I understand they only had like 15 seconds or whatever that they paid for. But getting the most out of your money with some of it. The rock stars with, Ace from Kiss and Ozzy, and there's some chuckles in between that. I'm not sure if it pushes the product that you're hoping will push and make it memorable in a certain way. I have trouble even thinking about what that might have been. Maybe you could look it back up on the internet and find it. From a whole marketing perspective, you got to remember that it was tied to something like Doritos, or Ben Stiller and Steve Martin doing the Pepsi Zero Sugar, or something to that effect. So I can remember that Bud Light was very much involved with the on hold music with the phone thing. But some of these newer products, it's really hard. You're spending a lot of money and you're an upstart. I will say, being a wrestling fan, it was cool to see Fox put a WWE Friday Night SmackDown promo in with the guy clicking the pen, and the lady just had like this fantasy of the whole the whole place, the whole workplace, very much like the commercial they ran like about 20 years ago when, Steve Austin was on top of his game and everything like that. And everybody was breaking tables, this and that. And then she snapped back into it and just, can I see your pen? Yeah, sure. Break it. And that's, Flash, that's kind of where we're at. Oh, this actually is my broken Steelers pen right there. Bang. Folks, that'll do it for me. That's a real quick hitter here. Not too much news on this front to talk about. We're going to be talking about some more free agent targets in the coming days and weeks. And Valentine's Day, happy Valentine's Day, early one to everyone that's out there. We love you and thank you and appreciate you for following us wherever you may be listening or watching as you may be. We're also going to talk about the Steelers that we love the most. So if you want to leave some comments here, 2%ers, and we'll try and put you in on this and talk about all the Steelers that you love right now. Try to keep it to a short list or just one or two. That's what and then we can compile them all, or we're going to be repeating people this way. I have a feeling I already know who Brian really loves. I really wanted Zach to get in on the bromance here, and I might have a surprise or two for all of you that are out there with maybe a little bit of a belated Valentine's episode. So I got this pen in my hand now, and now I can't stop. It's contagious. I could see where she's at. She would have probably elbowed me through a table as well. We're doing a commercial. So that'll do it for me. My name is Joe Kuzma. Thanks for flying solo with me today post Super Bowl. Hope you don't have too much of a hangover. And again, early happy Valentine's Day. We'll get some more programming out to you later this week. And then I'm off to get a little bit of a tan for the President's Day weekend, and we'll catch you again next week. Catch up on some of the shows that you might have missed. Not any information there that has died off yet. So you go back about even 2 weeks. We still got some great stuff there talking about backup quarterbacks, talking about potential needs for the Steelers. And we're going to continue on that path and cycle as we now head into what Steelers social media said that the 2023 season is now underway. Almost, not officially according to the league. They have a league year thing in a calendar that starts that. But for all intents and purposes, that process has already started for Pittsburgh about a month ago. So we'll be talking more about that in the coming days. Thank you once again for following, listening, and watching the Steel City Underground podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, leave a review, share this to your friends, family, and other Steelers fans. And until next time, as we always do, we encourage everyone out there to be safe, be good, and we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.